20 past 11, DCFM 88.9, and a bloke who's been riding a bike for a couple of weeks, or a week or so, is Mayor Mathew Dickerson. Morning.
Whew, I'm tired.
I bet you are. I bet you are.
6 days, 1,140 kilometres, one crash, and I'm here.
You crashed?
Yeah, there was a 6-bike pile-up, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was okay. I just got a bit of skin off my right-hand side, hip, knee, elbow, hand, that sort of thing.
Well, don't show me.
I won't show you. I won't like it on radio here, Richard. But unfortunately, one of our riders was knocked out completely, so he lost consciousness for about 10 seconds or so. He's okay, but again, just have to be careful whenever you lose consciousness that you basically take it easy for a couple of weeks. Another guy broke his collarbone, so that wasn't great from that perspective.
Yep.
A couple of the riders just bruised and beaten up a little bit, so yeah, 6 riders went down in that pile-up. Wasn't my fault, Richard, okay? It wasn't my fault.
I was about to ask you that. Now, you're going to get close to the 150,000?
I think we're over it already.
Really?
Some of the fundraising as we went around the region was incredible. In the past, when we've had an auction or some fundraising event at one of the towns as we go through the ride, if we get $5,000, we think that's really good effort because there's small communities and money is not in abundance at the moment. But we started to get some inkling that there was some really strong support out there. When we got to Burke, the auction they had at Burke raised $20,000. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The best we've ever done anywhere before has been $8,000, so $20,000. But people were going crazy, Richard. Someone said, from the people organising the auction, said, my mum makes really nice lemon meringue pie, so I'm going to auction my mum making you a lemon meringue pie. And I thought, that's nice, that might raise $30, $40. $550 for a lemon meringue pie.
Oh, gee, you want to be a big one?
It'd want to be big and you want to eat it slowly. It'd be very slow, one bite at a time maybe. But Mark Riley's out at Burke at the moment, former GM here of Dubbo. He's GM at Burke at the moment. He organised a couple of things. For example, he rang one of his old friends at Bathurst Council and got some tickets to the NRL match that was in Bathurst last weekend. So that went to auction, and again, people paid crazy money. I think they paid about $800 for that. So there was a really good community spirit there in Burke, but it was everywhere where we went. We'd stop at some places for lunch sometimes, and people would just come over and hand over $50. Here you go, you're doing a great job, thanks very much. And there's 50, there's 20. Just all those things that happened along the way. Warren was great as well. Warren has always been very supportive of us. They raised $7,000 in their auction, which was fantastic. $7,000 sounds great. Doesn't sound like much compared to Burke, but if you had have told me that we're going to get $7,000 from Warren before I started, I would have went, wow, that's fantastic. It's a huge amount of money. Oh, yeah. But it's just that support there. So we'll definitely get past our 150. How far past our 150, I'll let you know once we finalise all the final bits and pieces. All
right, we'll better get Rod Crowfoot from across the road because that's where the money's going, Macquarie Homestay, directly opposite here at DCFM. And they are booked out all the time now, and we need to get those extra rooms being built. And I think you, as Mayor, and our local members should put a squeeze on the government to get a grant to get those things built.
And that's exactly what this ride was all about. There's another $150,000 that will go towards Macquarie Homestay to start to build all that money up for the next stage. But you're absolutely spot on. When we do those fundraisers, it shows community support, it shows widespread community support, as people from all around the region are supportive of that, and it's also not an insignificant amount of money. So when you go to government and say, look at all these fundraisers, look at this money coming in, there was another $150,000 from another event, and then when we're asking, or when Rod Crowfoot's asking the government for money, it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's only millions of dollars to keep building the further stages. All the plans are there, they're all ready to go, it just really needs the money, and you're absolutely spot on. 16 rooms at the moment, it's very difficult for people to get a room. So it's doing what it was designed to do in terms of people staying there, but it's obviously meaning that some people are missing out, so they're still having to try and find hotel accommodation, friend accommodation, whatever it might be to try and stay if they're visiting Dubbo Hospital.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, speaking of bikes, we've got the motorbike rally on the 7th of May.
Lovely segue there, Richard. So this was one, I actually came back, I had a friend fly me back for the council meeting on Thursday night, so I was out that morning. It was a busy day for me, Richard. I got up in Burke that morning, I rode a push bike from Burke to Cobar, got on a friend's plane, flew back, we ran the council meeting, had some dinner at home, and then my wife took the car and drove me back out ready to ride to Warren the next day from Cobar. So it was a busy day last Thursday. Indeed. But one of the things at the council meeting was the motorbike rally. Now the motorbike rally was started by Stan Single and a group of people that he'd had experience with attending motorbike rallies over the years, and they did the first one back in 2019. Church Street was closed down. 1,700 people came here for that event.
I remember that.
It was fantastic. With you, I again remember walking up and down the street there and thinking, this is fantastic, this is great. When they did the calculation in terms of the amount of money that was injected into our economy, about $2.4 million was injected into our economy. And remember, they were motorbikers, not bikees. Big difference there.
Yeah.
We didn't see people walking down the street with club colours on, with jackets or with baseball bats in their hands or whatever image you might have for a bikie. These are bikers. These are people like you and I that enjoy their motorbikes, and they've got some expendable income because they're normally in their later stages, the later half of their life. So they've normally done their work, built up their funds, bought a nice motorbike, and they come to places like Dubbo and spend money. So that was fantastic. Obviously, the last 2 years, you haven't been able to hold a rally with a large number of people. So this year, getting it back and getting it bigger and better than ever, rather than close down Church Street, they wanted to close down Talbragar Street. Now, part of the process there is that you're closing down the entire street, so shopkeepers along there need to be notified. What happened on Thursday night was someone came along and presented and said they weren't really communicated correctly in terms of the closure of the street, and they weren't happy about the closure of the street. So there were a couple of shops that weren't happy about it. So it was again one of these tough decisions of council: close the street down, great for the motorbike rally, bring lots of money into the community, pubs and clubs and restaurants and motels, etc., all get a good chunk of that $2.4 million. That's on the plus side. On the negative side, you've got some shops who say, well, they're not our shoppers, and our normal shoppers can't come along and shop here. So, for example, the florist was one that wasn't really happy about the process, and Mother's Day is the next day. It's our big day for the florist. So, council discussed it, went back and forth a little bit, and then in the end, we had to make a decision. So, finally, the decision was, yes, we will close down the street, and we'll just talk to the florist and see if there's anything we can do to make it a bit easier for people to come and collect flowers on that Saturday. So going ahead, unfortunately, you sometimes have winners and losers, and again, a couple of those shops weren't happy. But 7th of May, I think it'll be a great event. I do feel for those shopkeepers that will have their trade slightly impacted negatively on that day, but I think there are so many positives from an overall community perspective. It's still a better outcome. So 7th of May, there all day, there'll be motorbikes up and down the street, there'll be lots of bikers walking along, and they'll be spending money in various places along there.
Why couldn't the bikers grab a bunch of flowers and deliver them to someone?
Well, some of these bikers will be there with their wives, for example,
Exactly.
so they might want to buy some flowers there. So there might be some potential there for the florist to try and work up some marketing campaign to try and
I would think so.
benefit some of those people there. So
All right, now, are we rearranging the deck chairs at council with this new divisional structure that's being organised? I asked Murray Wood, our CEO, about this on Monday. He seemed very positive about it all. You've looked at it. Is it rearranging the deck chairs, or is it good?
look, it is rearranging deck chairs to a certain extent, but what you've got to do as a compulsory part of the Local Government Act, every new council that's elected must look at the organisational structure of council. And you might look at that sometimes and say, everything's right, we don't need to change anything. The changes that are being implemented here are really subtle changes. It's not throwing out all the staff and everyone reapply for their jobs and all start again. It's really just making sure we've got the right number of divisions, the right number of directors in council, and making sure the right components are sitting under them. Probably one of the things that I'm most excited about in that reorganisation of the structure is looking at this one particular position that will be created to have a business focus on our business entities. So things that make money for council, such as our caravan park, our childcare centre, our sale yards, our airport. We've got various components of council that should be making money for council. Are they maximising their profits? Are they in fact losing money when they should be making money? So getting someone with a real business focus on those rather than a social focus, I think is very important. So there are little things like that that you are tweaking. So call it rearranging the deck chairs. It is a bit of that because it's not a broom through the place. It's not starting again and saying that's it, blank piece of paper and let's go for it. It really is just some subtle changes just to make sure it suits where we need to be going in the future.
So business would replace something like what we had in the past, the Dubbo City Development Corporation. Is that what you're saying?
No, the Dubbo City Development Corporation has really been replaced by our Economic Development Division. So that's the entire division. But having someone within that division that is really focused on just saying, how do we maximise the performance? So I would imagine that someone would be, so that's a new position, for example. I would imagine someone that would be employed in that position would be someone who's got a business background, who's used to saying, how do we maximise profits for a business? So just to give you some idea there, some of those assets we've got at council that, as I said, say things like the caravan park or like the sale yards, we do make money out of some of those, but is there a way we can make more money? What we're really trying to do is make sure that all the ratepayers across the community are getting the best bang for their buck. And if we can increase some of the profits on some of those businesses by 5 or 10%, that might mean an extra $500,000 overall to council. That's $500,000 worth of potholes we can fix, or $500,000 worth of extra services we can provide to the community. So I think that sometimes when you're in council, when you've got that big beast of council and you've got some business entities in there, you can be a little bit, I don't want to say lazy or slack with those, but it's just you can be a little bit relaxed about those businesses because it's not your business and you're not trying to put food on the table in that business. But you just need to refine that focus sometimes. I mean, that's just one example. That's just looking at what are the best positions we can have across council.
Hard to motivate people who've been in bureaucratic positions all their life and not run a business, and that's the problem.
That is the problem.
I can see that. Very quickly, because we're running out of time, it's 29 to 12. The new bridge project and River Street still there, and I understand council have looked at River Street and said, well, we need to extend it here and widen it there and so on and so forth. It looks as though it's going to be a good project.
Well, the whole River Street bridge we're talking about there, one of the things is that obviously the last council had a resolution of council to say we reject the bridge. Now, it's all well and good to say you don't support something, that's fine, but we don't make the decision on the bridge. So I think that the last council made the decision, that's fine, but it was never going to have any impact because the state government controls that piece of infrastructure. The state government controls the highway. So we had to make a decision as a council. Did we want to keep going and have a resolution of council, keep supporting the previous resolution to say, we'll fight the River Street Bridge all the way? To what end? Who knows what it's going to achieve? I would suggest probably nothing. So we had a presentation from Transport for New South Wales. They come along and gave council a presentation. We could give them all the questions we wanted. We could really quiz them about that bridge project. But then, at the end of it all, we made a common sense decision to say, we accept it's going ahead. There's nothing we can do about it. It's going ahead. But what we really want, and this is where the community has spoken, is a bypass. So rather than just say, we want a bypass, please give us one, let's ask for the money for a business case for the bypass. So then, if we get that and we actually build the business case for a bypass and show the benefits that it would have to Dubbo, then we've got a much stronger argument to go to state and federal and say, we're going to bypass, and by the way, here's how it would benefit Dubbo. Would it benefit Dubbo in economic terms, in lower commute times, in less traffic in certain areas? All of those things, I can't give you all the answers to those right now, so it makes it hard for me to really argue for a bypass. I can't really argue to the state and federal government, give me hundreds of millions of dollars, because, look, a few people in our community said it's a good idea, so can you do that, please? And it's okay to say that this is what the public wants, but it's much better to build up an argument based on numbers. So what we're going forward with now is we've now got a resolution of council to say we accept the River Street Bridge, we can't stop it, move on. But what we do want is money for a business case to actually build a case for the bypass.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's common sense.
Well, I mean, last year I couldn't believe it, and I remember commenting on the air saying, council passed that resolution to say they don't want the River Street Bridge, and I said, it's very interesting to note that the council bureaucrats are going ahead with it anyway, in line with what the state government was saying.
That's right. We may as well pass a resolution to say we don't want to pay income tax.
That's right.
We don't control income tax. So it's the old Irish proverb, isn't it? The courage to change the things you can, to accept the things you can't change, and most importantly, the wisdom to know the difference. And that's the thing there. We can't change the River Street Bridge. Council does not have it within its powers. I know there was one council last year who said, well, why don't we just have a council resolution to say we'll park bulldozers in front of any construction work. Well, you can't have a council resolution. It's illegal. It's illegal to park bulldozers in front of construction work going on. So you can't do that.
Mate, I mean, the last council, they're off the planet. They really were off the planet. We've got 2 minutes left. Very quickly. Wellington and the police. I mean, I remember when I was standing the state seat in 1999, they're talking about further police, increasing policing in Wellington. It's never going to happen because if they do that for the size of a town of Wellington, they're going to have to do it for towns that size all around the state. It's never going to happen. Why are council still pursuing this? It's a lost cause.
I don't think it's a lost cause, and
it is.
I don't want to give up on it because it might seem like a lost cause, and I don't really care what they do in other towns of similar size around the state because my job is to look after Dubbo and Wellington and the villages around Dubbo and Wellington.
I understand that, but I mean the point that I'm making is how can Wellington be a standout?
Well, we can be a standout by having a council that lobbies the correct people in the correct way
Yeah,
to
righto.
try and get some outcomes.
Yeah, righto.
What we ended up happening with council in terms of the Wellington police situation was, let's get the information back, which has now come back to us to give us some further information. And this resolution that came through council then said, now, as a step further along that line, let's have a meeting with the police, with the leaders of the police here, and really get some detailed information. So when we then go ahead to our state government representatives and say, here's the information we've got, here are the reasons why we would like to see 24-hour policing. And 24-hour policing is an interesting thing. Having a police station there with someone manning it 24 hours, is that perfect? Maybe, maybe not. What we've been told by the police is that just about every police car is a police station now. The access to information in a police car is quite incredible. So you may be better off, we may be better off as a council lobbying for not so much a police station that's got the doors open 24 hours a day with someone sitting behind a desk, but having a police presence there 24 hours a day. So this is where it's better to gather that information and be able to argue that. And I think Wellington residents would be just as happy, if not happier, because if you think about it, if you've got someone behind a desk and someone comes in and says, quick, there's a robbery happening, well, the policeman says, I can't leave the desk because then I'd have to close the police station. We need to be open 24 hours a day. So I'm going to have to sit here behind the desk while there's a robbery happening 200 metres up the road.
And he's by himself, or by herself.
Yeah, that's right. So having the police car there 24 hours a day, that may be a better outcome. Now, I'm putting words in the mouths of the police here, so I don't want to do that.
Danny, I hope you're listening.
But the reality is, let's keep meeting with the police, let's see what we've got, and then go forward to the state government and say, this is what our community really wants. They talk about a 24-hour police station. What they really want is better policing in Wellington. What form that takes, that's where we've got to try and lobby for that. So I don't think it's a lost cause. I think we can still argue the case there. And I think if we lobby hard enough and get the right data to lobby with, I think we've got a chance to actually improve that policing.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. We're going to talk about Indian miners, those dreadful birds, but we've run out of time.
Well, I just want to put people's mind at ease in Dubbo. Indian miners, when you hear councillors talking about Indian miners, we're not talking about, because we're talking about trapping Indian miners. We're not going to the country of India and getting young children and trapping them. We're saying birds, Indian miners that are not native to this area. We don't want them in our area. They are problems, or they cause problems. We want to try and trap some of those and get rid of them, not young children from India.
That was the worst joke I've seen in a long time. That's terrible, Matthew. It really is. Mathew Dickerson, Mayor of Dubbo, thanks for coming in. We'll see you soon.
Right, thanks, Richard.
It's coming up to 22 minutes to 12, DCFM 88.